this is Donovan Hilton. Excuse me, Juan. We are at the Maxwell Hotel in Metro Center, and we are at the Criminal Justice Reform and Addiction Conference that's held by Men of Valor, as well as the Governor's Office, Governor Bill Lee, which includes the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Now, why am I here? Well, again, my firm is to ensure that employers that I'm contracted to work with to help these employers find skilled workers for the jobs they're hiring for. Because this particular conversation deals with criminal backgrounds and reentering society, it's very important that, especially if you're talking business relations, that government and community relations also plays a close hand for employment. Well, what do you mean, Donovan? Well, there are a lot of barriers for those reentering society to get employment. Well, Donovan, what do you mean? Well, according to the Americans for Prosperity, issues such as overcriminalization, policing practices, due process, sentencing, and second chance are really plaguing local residents when it comes to finding employment. So some of the things that I took out to include networking, getting business cards, to help be an advocate for employers and community residents for employment, gainful employment, long-term, full-time, sustainable employment, were one, returning citizens reentering society have to make sure they know that they are representing, and that can include me one day. I don't know, I speak life, but at the same time, no one's different. Everyone has situations, so we're not here to judge. But at the same time, it can happen to any one of us. We all have different stories. But at the same time, it's very important for those reentering society to know that they not only represent themselves, but they represent a lot more people that will be released. I think they said like 95% of those that are incarcerated will eventually be released. And employers right now, until they become confident and do a better job in the employment process, indirectly are making personal choices to hire those with the background. And so you got to know, when you are reentering society and you're going in for employment, you have to know that you are representing not only yourself, but other individuals of all skin colors and of men and women. And so if you're not putting your best foot forward, you're going to make it harder, with all due respect, to someone else that may be entering society that is ready to work and get their life to where they need to be. Well, that's one of the first things. So we all have to be accountable for our own actions. Some of the bigger things that jumped out was, got to make sure there's a living wage. Those that have a background, sometimes employers could be unfair and not give that individual the just income that they need in order to ensure that they are on their way to the middle class, so they can work, have disposable income, have money to invest, as well as money to save. People want to feel like they have a life. And so we got to make sure that we're increasing the living wage. Barriers like transportation, housing, ID, driver's license, are some of the things that are also situations that are beyond those returning from incarceration's control. What do you mean by that? For example, there was an interesting statement that was made in regards to, hey, well, I was in reentering society and the only place that I can find was an apartment complex that would accept those that are reentering society. But literally, as I was recovering from drugs, the only place to live was this apartment complex, and every house, every floor was filtered with drugs. You smelled the marijuana. You saw the glass pipes and everything. And I didn't really realize, the housing aspect. And you can say, well, duh, Donovan, but that's the whole point of why I'm here. I'm helping employers find skilled workers for jobs, but at the same time, I gotta make sure that the skilled workers and those that are not skilled have every opportunity to lift themselves up and create a pathway to the middle class. So even though I'm doing business relations, I find myself doing government relations as well as community relations to make sure that local residents that may have backgrounds can get to places like these and connect with decision makers like these so they can have resources. A lot of individuals, undefined out, that may have been charged but didn't go to prison or jail, or may not have been charged, still have a background. And so they didn't get charged, but they have a background to where when they go in for the interview, it comes up. And then they and a lot of people don't know that. And it's also because they weren't charged, they still have to go through the expungement process, which still costs money. So there's a lot of barriers that I'm here, and as you can see, we have Americans for Prosperity doing an outstanding job. But again, I'm representing several employers. I'm representing the community residents, which requires me to connect with government agencies to include the Tennessee Department of Corrections, the Governor's Office, Core Civic, the American Job Center as well. So some solutions, if you're with the Tennessee, if you are may have a background and you need employment, there are employment specialists at the Tennessee Department of Corrections that work with employers, such as the client that I represent, Express Employment Professionals. And as you can see, we are in Metro Center, if you're familiar with this area, and a client, Express Employment Professionals, a staffing company, one of the leading employers in North Davidson County, is right up the street. And they work with over or close to 200 local employers in the area, averaging take-home pay for local residents of about $13.60. There's a lot more higher pay that's there, but there's also some that are below that income. But the average individual is making about $13.60, working about 36 hours a week. Now that's just one employer. There's also the American Job Center, which is the workforce development arm for the state of Tennessee. And there is a job center right up the street as well, American Job Center, where there are various training programs on how to get a job and how to keep a job. So again, Donovan is out here in the community, making sure that employers have every chance to find skilled local residents for the jobs. And if you're an employer and you're looking for skilled residents, reach out to my firm, Hilton Leap Marketing Agency. And as you can see, we're more than just marketing. We also want to make sure that we're ingrained in the community to ensure that local residents have every resource possible to reach the middle class. Now, once you reach the middle class, it's up to you to do what you have to do to get to the higher class, if you will. But, you know, everyone I feel deserves a right to get to middle class. And if you don't know, it said was in Nashville, you got to bring in about $70,000 just to live comfortably here nowadays, which means if you're in a two-person household, each individual needs to make at least $40,000. I can't stress that enough. $40,000. No more public housing in Davidson County, and I'm almost certain public housing across the country is going to be wiped out. I'm almost certain that government assistance will continue to dwindle, with all due respect. So if you are an able-bodied individual, you have to make sure that you are first recognizing what you're good at, what you like to do, what people need, and what people are willing to pay you for. You also want to make sure that you're recognizing what industries are coming in within the next few years and what industries are dying off. Because there's no point of you getting training in an industry that will no longer be here in 5 years. So you need to make sure you know what industries are coming in, get skilled. There's Tennessee Promise, various programs out there where you can get your education for free now. The Governor's Office is doing an outstanding job to make sure you're on track. Again, Hilton Leap Marketing Agency, we're more than just marketing, ensuring that employers find local residents for jobs and making sure that local residents are maximizing their time and resources to make the highest income possible. And remember, we're more than just marketing.